Welcome to the Badass Direct Sales Mastery Podcast with your direct sales dom, Jenny Bellinger. Badass Direct Sales Mastery is a podcast for rock star direct sales moms who are determined to make their business kick ass. Jenny will share her knowledge of effective sales and recruiting techniques, tips to get what you want from your business, and will interview direct sales professionals and leaders from various companies. The interviews will give insight to how these rock stars got to where they are and where they plan to grow in the future. And now, the direct sales dom, Jenny Bellinger.
Welcome back to another episode of Badass Direct Sales Mastery. I'm your host, Jenny Bellinger, your direct sales dom, helping you whip your business into shape. And today I have with me somebody who has become a very good business friend of mine. I've known Bob for, oh my gosh, probably 6 or 7 years now, right, Bob?
Almost a decade.
Has it been that long? Oh my gosh. So
BNI Leaders Council when they were still meeting over at Ravenelli's, when there was a Ravenelli's in Collinsville.
Yeah, that's been a bit. Okay, yeah. So I've known Bob Madewell apparently for a decade now. I knew it was at least 6 years.
Yeah, no, you're good.
So we've known each other for a while, and you know, my audience, the Badass Crew is the name that they go by. They are not shocked to hear BNI come out of your mouth because they know that a good portion of my guests I've met because of BNI, whether they're a member or not, or a former member or a current member, or actually someone I sponsored in Australia. My gosh, you know,
down under.
So, down under. So, but
I'm not going to do any accents. You have fun with that. That's not my forte.
That's the extent. I'm telling you now, that is the first time my audience has ever heard me do an accent, I think. So, but Bob Madewell is currently with EXP Realty. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yes. And you've been in the real estate world for quite a while in a couple of different capacities, a couple of different businesses. And when you and I were at a BNI event recently, I mentioned that I was starting this 6-figure success series for people who are in direct sales. And you were like, I'm doing 6 figures. And I said, let's get you on the show then. Let's have a conversation. Right. So the nice thing is that I know that we all start in business at 0. And some people get to 6 figures, some people get to 7 figures. But let's start with, how'd you get into business? Like, how'd you get from like graduating high school to here? And we don't need the whole story, but the in a nutshell version, because I want people to know a little bit about your background here.
Oh, wow. So after high school, I went into the Navy. I was in the Navy for 6 years as an ET, which is an electronics technician. That gave me my basis in wiring and electrical. When I got out of the Navy, the world was kind of crazy. It was right before 9/11, and then 9/11 happened. I almost re-enlisted, but didn't. I worked several different jobs until I ended up at Charter Communications, which is now called Spectrum. And during that time, the bulk of that, I was just a technician. So I learned a lot about just houses and how they're built and how to get wire from one part of the house to the other part of the house. But then later in my career at Charter, I got into the commercial side, became a network engineer because they realized my skills with networking, and was in business accounts. And that's how I got into sales. So personal note, I had colon cancer, found out I had colon cancer when I was 32, and I had to pay for those bills because at that age, they weren't big about getting a colonoscopy until you were 40. So like I had to pay for my own colonoscopy because my insurance didn't want to cover it because it wasn't necessary. So I had a bunch of bills to pay and found out about a program through Charter where you would refer business. And you only got $50 per line. And if you know anything about cable, it's either phone, internet, or TV. And most businesses don't get TV. So at the most, I would sell somebody a phone line and an internet connection and got $100 for the whole deal, but $50 a pop. And in that year, I referred about $10,000 worth of business, which doesn't seem like a lot, but at $50 a pop, it was a big deal. It put me on the sales team radar. And I was the first technician to get to go on what they called a platinum circle trip for their top salespeople. And I was the first technician. I went. And during that time, they were like, hey, this is how much you referred. This is what you would have made if you would have actually did the sales yourself. And I was like, oh, okay, that's a lot of money. And they asked me if I was interested. So for my last 4 years of Charter, I did sales to commercial businesses for phone and internet. I became number one in Illinois number 10 in the St. Louis market, and top 20 in the overall national United States level, and went to Platinum Circle 4 more times during that time. So found out I was really good at selling stuff. And then they changed their name to Spectrum, said, okay, we're going to gut your department. And I didn't know what to do. So I talked to one of my good friends, Wendy Seimer, who you know, and was like, what can I do? Because she's the one that got me into BNI when I became a salesperson, and in turn met you and other people, which again, I can't say enough good things about BNI. If you're starting out, especially, get into BNI because you don't know anybody. You will know some people.
Yeah.
Within your first year, you'll know a lot of people. Great for exposure. So I talked to Wendy, and Wendy was like, why don't you do what you're good at and do inspections, because you know houses, something with real estate, when maybe get your license. And so I took all these little options she gave me about real estate and decided to become a home inspector and own my own business for 6 years. Grew that company from just myself to 2 employees, 2 inspectors, and an office lady. And then 2 years ago, had the unfortunate event of getting attacked in a vacant house by 2 guys who were stealing the copper out of it. So it was vacant. They busted in through a back window. I obviously did not know they were there. I went in to go do my thing, and they jumped me and almost killed me. I thought about stopping, just trying to be an entrepreneur and going back to the safe world of being in an office and working for somebody else. And again, talked to some friends, talked to some BNI members, and they were like, why don't you just go ahead and get your license and become a real estate agent? And so I did that 2 years ago. And so here I am 2 years later. I started with Century 21, and Tina and Jerry Besserman own the Century 21 in Granite City, Illinois, and they're amazing. And if you're a new agent and you don't want to work with somebody like me who is more than willing to train you, and you want more of a structured environment, I guess you would say, I highly recommend going to her. Tina is great at training. She did a really good job with me. The only reason I left to go to EXP is, as a real estate agent, you have 2 options to make more money. 1, sell more houses, which I would love to do, and I try to do every day. Or 2, switch to a different company that has a better commission structure, better cap. Now, mind you, for her being a brick and mortar, great commission structure. She's actually one of the lowest caps, brick and mortar wise, but she can't really compete with somebody like EXP who's online. There's no offices. And for me, I feel personally, just as personal, that I don't really need the logo. I don't need EXP other than someplace to hang my license. I didn't need Century 21 because I sell myself. People don't think, people don't think of me as, hey, that's Bob the Remax guy, or Bob the Century 21 guy, or Bob the EXP guy. They're like, that's Bob Madewell. He's a real estate agent. And me and my wife did a little, I wouldn't say experiment, but I can't think of another word right now off the top of my head, but we did a little test poll. We called all of my past clients and said, hey, Bob's just wanting to get some Google reviews and wanted to know if you'd be willing to help. And one of the questions she would ask is, do you remember what company he works for? And most of them would be like, no, I have no idea, but he used to be a home inspector. But they remember that, which is good. And so we found that it wasn't the logo on my polo that mattered. It was me being Bob. And now I can wear shirts that say, hey, my name's Bob, and I spell it backwards.
Yes. And if you guys, because you're listening, right? I don't do a video podcast yet. Maybe someday I will, but right now I don't. He actually wears a bright orange t-shirt that says, my name is Bob, and it's lowercase b, O, and then capital B, because his name is spelled backwards. And it's a great branding thing. I mean, coming from the branding peaks, because I know when you were in Madewell Home Inspections, when you built that business, the color was orange. It was Madewell, right? So it was such a great name for that, by the way. And now the Bob spelled backwards. It started around that time. I remember you starting to say that or promoting it.
Oh, no, that came from BNI. I started promoting it that time, but it came from BNI, actually. So my first BNI chapter had Bob Reynolds, Bob Stewart, Bob from Turf Gator. There was another Bob, and I can't remember. So there were 4 Bobs when I joined this chapter with Wendy. Wendy was the secretary at that time, and she did become the president. 4 Bobs. So when I walked in, they were like, we're going to call you Little Bob, or we're going to call you Young Bob, or whatever. And I'm like, no, I'm Bob. It says it on my license, Bob. You guys are all Robert, so you guys are all fake Bobs. And they were adamant about it. They were like, what's up, Little Bob? Or what's up, B-O-B, like all these little things. And I was like, you know what? If you're going to call me that, I'm going to be the one that spells it backwards. And it just stuck from there. So now I'm the Bob that spells it backwards.
See, and this is part of why you and I get along so well, because growing up until I was in 9th grade, I was Jenny with a Y.
Yeah.
Right? Well, I hit 9th grade and and I started in color guard. There were 18 girls in color guard. 5 of us were some version of Jennifer, Jenny, Jen, something like that, right? And so we all wanted to get our names on parade shirts, but we wanted people to be able to like tell who we were, because we were all basically, for the most part, same size, same age, whatever. So from behind, we were all going to look basically the same if we all had J-E-N-N-Y on our shirts.
And none of you could be Jenny from the block.
Well, no, because that was not a thing back then yet. That's showing my age. She hadn't done that yet. Yeah, no, she hadn't done that yet. J-Lo was not a thing. So, because this was 92 and 91, 92 time period. And so that's when I switched to Jenny with an IE, because we all picked a different spelling. So somebody went by Jennifer, somebody took the J-E-N-N-Y, somebody went J-E-N-I. I went J-E-N-N-I-E. I was like, I love that spelling. I've always thought it was awesome. This is a great time to change it. And I have just been Jenny with an IE since 1991. Right?
There you go.
And so it was because I wanted to be different. I didn't want the Jenny with a Y anymore. I wanted to be different.
Oh, yeah.
That's what it was. I wanted to stand out. And I think that's part of what makes you and I like, because you have the bright orange. My thing is purple, purple and orange are great. I mean, hello, they're Halloween awesome colors, but you know.
Well, the orange is an interesting story too. Yeah. So as a home inspector, I went to my first association meeting. So they have the Association of Home Inspectors, ASHI, American Society of Home Inspectors. So I went to my first ASHI meeting and everybody was wearing blue and gray. Everybody in the room was wearing blue and gray. And I decided at that time, I'm like, I am not going to be a guy that wears blue or gray ever. So I decided on orange, because also I take pictures of houses and I'm standing in the street trying to get a really good photo, and I don't want to get hit by a car. And last but not least, the most important thing is, and she didn't mention that, Jenny didn't mention this, but I also wear a vest. So it's an orange shirt and usually a vest. When it's hotter, I don't wear the vest, but the vest has a lot of pockets, so it had usefulness. But if you have an orange shirt and a vest on, you can pretty much walk around anywhere and no one will question you. So I'm going through all these backyards and no one's like bothering me, like, what are you doing here? Because they just think I'm some construction worker. So it worked out really well.
Yeah. They think you're supposed to be there doing some sort of city inspections or something like that, right? That is pretty awesome. I love that. But it really does make you stand out. And I think that's a really important thing for the badass crew, the listener, to pay attention to, because
absolutely.
One of the things I've said time and again in the world of direct sales and network marketing, your competitor is not the other companies or the other people who sell other products. Your true competitor are other people who sell the same thing you do, because in many cases, people know 1, 2, or 3 essential oil ladies. They know 1, 2, or 3 Mary Kay ladies. They know 2 or 3 Pampered Chef reps. They know, you know what I mean? So it's what makes you stand out. Why should they do business with you, with whatever company you're with, as opposed to somebody else?
Well, it's the same way with real estate agents.
Exactly.
There's tons of them. I'm sure everybody that's listening can name a sister or an aunt or a cousin or a brother. Somebody's in real estate. I already have something built in. I'm the only real estate agent that was a home inspector. Most real estate agents are female. They're also teachers, and they're usually middle age. So they're a good 35 to 55 in age. That's like the bread and butter of them. So I have a lot of things different just built in. Like, I'm a guy, used to be a home inspector, but then I don't feel it's necessary to be super dressed up. Like, if I have to, like if I'm going to show $1 million house, I might put on a polo, but I'm very much a jeans and t-shirt kind of guy. So I always say things like that. Like, I used to crawl around in crawl spaces. So if you see me show up to the listing appointment and jeans and a t-shirt, it's because I'm ready to get down and dirty in your house if I have to. Like, I will look in the cubby holes, which most real estate agents will not do. So, and I'm also a grown man who dances on the internet. We haven't touched on that yet.
Well, I was just going to go in that direction because in all the things that help people stand apart, right? I can tell you, I know one business person, one who dances on the internet on a regular basis, right? And
Everywhere
it's you. It's you. You do the Baba Louie, which I think is hilarious. You even have a name for the dance, right? How did the Baba Louie get started, and what has that type of branding and uniqueness done for you in your business?
So when I got out of the Navy, I wanted to use my GI Bill to get an education, obviously. And I went to Lewis and Clark Community College to do communications, and their communications program is tied in with the radio broadcasting program. And so everyone's always told me that I have a face for radio and a voice for radio, as you can probably tell. So while I was on the radio, I was told that I had to have a nickname. And I'm like, my name's Bob. I've never had a nickname. Like, Bobs don't get nicknames. So one of the kids, they were like, we'll just start calling you the Big Bad Baba Louie. So that's where Baba Louie came from. So I was on the radio. I started this little program called the Top 9 at Noon. So, hey, everybody, it's College Radio's Best, 89.9. This is the Big Bad Baba Louie playing whatever song I'm playing. Here's Nirvana on College Radio's Best, 89.9. So Big Bad Baba Louie. And then I am a big fan of video. Like, I know that I'm a chunky monkey. You can't see me, but just know I'm a chunky monkey. I get it. And I'm not afraid of what I look like. That's the one thing you need to get over. You look like what you look like. Everybody is going to see you. Everybody does see you. They know what you look like. So don't be bothered by it, because you may not see yourself all the time. But I think a lot of people, they see themselves on video and they're like, hey, that's what you look like all the time. So get over that. That's a big, big fear. So I do a lot of video, and I did a bunch of commercials as a home inspector. And one of them was my referral commercial. Like, the punchline of the commercial was, we really appreciate your referrals. And every time you give us a referral, somebody does a little happy dance. And I pull the microphone close. I'm like, it's me. I do the happy dance. And then I did this little dance while my logo was above my head. So the editor put in a whole bunch of me. Like, there's like 4 or 5 little Bobs at the bottom of the screen with my logo and number above them while I'm doing my little Baba Louie. And a kid from my church took that, one of those little Baba Louies, one of those little Bobs, and made it into a meme on TikTok before I even knew what TikTok was. So I'm sitting there at a restaurant in Granite. Can I shamelessly plug Uncle Lenny's?
Do it.
You're in Granite City, actually Pontoon Beach. Eat Uncle Lenny's. It's delicious. I highly recommend it. But I'm sitting there, and the owner comes over. He's like, hey, Bob, when do you got to dance here? And I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, this. And he shows me his phone, and it's me dancing. I'm like, where did you get that? Like, I didn't even know it was a thing. He goes, my daughter saw it on TikTok, said, hey, isn't this guy that comes to your restaurant all the time? Because, I wear the orange, so she knew who I was.
Right.
And he's like, when are you going to dance? So I was like, we're eating, me and my wife were eating breakfast. I was like, we're eating breakfast, Lindy. And he goes, I'll pay for breakfast. I'm like, free food. Chunky monkey's jumping up and dancing. So I got up and danced, and he did. I didn't really expect him to, but he did. He paid for the breakfast. And then it was a couple weeks later that I was at the other restaurant in town, which isn't actually in Granite City, Apple Tree. And the owner comes over, and she's Eastern European, but she sounds very Russian. So I'm going to do an accent for you. She's just like, oh, Bob, why do dance here? You do dance at Lindy's, but do dance here. And I was like, Linda, I'm sorry. I'll dance. So I danced for her. And the next, I'm getting calls from people like, hey, why haven't you danced in our business? I'm like, well, I didn't know I had. This didn't become a thing. Like, now it is. So yeah, I've done well over 300, 400 TikTok videos of me dancing, not only in front of the houses that I buy or sell, or at that time, the houses that I inspected, but other businesses, because I like to tell about others. I know it's a shameless plug for myself, but I'll dance in front of Uncle Lenny's or Apple Tree, and, put that out there like, hey, dance to the Baba Louie everywhere I go. Try, Uncle Lenny's, try Apple Tree, and give them a little bit of free promotion. So I like to give as well as receive, which, is our whole philosophy, reciprocity.
Absolutely. B&I, givers gain, baby, right?
Always.
Well, and I think too, it's also a really smart thing, because this is what in the marketing world is now called co-branding, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're co-branding. Uncle Lenny saw that you have become at least locally famous, right? And they're like,
he put my picture up on the wall at his restaurant. If you go into Uncle Lenny's and you go to the left and look in the corner, there's a picture of me on the wall.
Nice. And so he did the smart thing, and he co-branded with you, right? Mm-hmm. And then it became a thing, because now the other restaurant owners are like, well, if you're dancing for them, why don't you dance for, well, I'll dance for you too, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's co-branding is a thing, right? So I think it's a cool thing. Now, how has the dancing, how have you seen that positively impact your business?
When I get calls from clients, they're like, "Hey, are you the dancing realtor? I saw your video on TikTok or Facebook or where." I even sometimes put them on LinkedIn. I don't always put them on LinkedIn because I don't know if you've talked about how you should present yourself on each media.
Right.
But Facebook's more fun. LinkedIn's more your resume.
Yeah.
But I do every once in a while put one on LinkedIn so people know that that's something that I do. I just don't post them there all the time. But they'll tell me that they saw it here, there, or wherever, or they heard somebody talk about it. So I have gotten feedback like that. And then I've been asked by everybody, like, so if you list my house, you are going to dance in front of it, right? That's like a question at the listing appointment.
I love it. So then people are actually, you're known before they call you, right? Because they've done their research at least a little bit, saw that you were the dancing realtor, went and looked at some of your other videos, and then gave you a call. So that has worked out really well for you. So sounds to me like the branding piece, the standing out, is what really helped you get from 0 to your first 6 figures.
It did. Being Bob Madewell, the brand, so wearing the orange all the time, so everybody knows when I walk into a room, people know that I walked into a room. I don't have to wear a name tag. That's important. I drive around in a little orange Fiat, which I call my little orange pumpkin. So I get pictures of myself in my car sent to me on a daily basis. Like, hey, I saw you driving here. And it's a picture of me in my car. Because people see it and they immediately like, there's Bob. So being recognized. But I also did a little old school advertising. So I got really lucky, and I'll even plug another real estate agent. Chad Doyle is a friend of mine. Judy's in BNI, his mom. And so Chad and me are friends, and he does a bench over at Schnucks in Collinsville, and another one became available, I want to say in Wood River. And Chad was like, I don't do that. Oh no, it's in Granite City. Chad goes, I don't do that. I don't really work that much in that area, and I'm not really looking to have more benches. Give my friend Bob a call, because he's a Granite City guy. So his bench guy called me, and I went ahead and did it. So I got a bench in Granite City, I got a bench in Wood River, I got a bench in Alton. So I have some benches. I'm trying to get more, but that was because billboards are expensive. I don't know if you know that, Jenny, but billboards are expensive.
I would believe that. Yes.
Benches are not as expensive, and people see them. If you have them in a place like a shopping center, like, Schnucks, which is what it's in front of, you get a lot of people that see that bench. So people getting your face out there. We say this all the time: visibility, credibility, profitability. If you're visible, people need to see you to know what you do. And so I can't do, billboards. I don't have that kind of money yet. I'm working on it. But I can do a bench. So people see me, they see my brand, they see my, when I go to Walmart, I'm in my orange shirt. And just so you all know, I have a ton of orange shirts. A lot of people are like, you just wear the same shirt all the time. No. I got this one that I'm wearing now that says, my name is Bob and I sell real estate. And then I got another one that says, my name is Bob. Yes, I spell it backwards. I got another one that says, we'll give free real estate advice for tacos. We have a friend, Jeremy. What's Jeremy's business name? Help me out.
Oh, Jeremy Colton.
Yeah,
Big
Jeremy
Frog.
Colton. So he does shirts. So I have him print me up shirts. I come up with ideas. I have him printed up on the orange shirt. He's got a whole file folder of stuff that I've given him. And so, yes, I have a whole closet full of orange shirts.
That's awesome. Well,
but you got to do it consistently.
Yeah, exactly.
Consistency is king.
Yeah, it's the consistency. It's the persistence with things because, well, I mean, you got it good, right? You became internet famous without trying, right?
Yeah, that wasn't my intention.
Right. You just made a cute little commercial so your referral friends, knew how to do it. Because I remember when you made that commercial and put it out on Facebook, I was like, oh, that's adorable. That's so cool. It was great. And I think that really did help you stand out because, one thing I've said for a long time, especially when it comes to networking, whether you're going to a chamber meeting or wherever, right? There's always tons of realtors there, right? Mm-hmm. There's lots of realtors. But here's the thing. Everybody knows Bob. Everybody knows Bob, right? At least here in the
I do not hide.
In the St. Louis area, everybody knows Bob. And that standing out, what makes you different is what really helps put that out there. I should actually introduce you to. Oh my gosh. Can't believe I didn't think of this because her brand colors are orange. Kay Miller, a previous guest on my podcast, she and her husband, she wrote a book called Uncopyable Sales Secrets because she's known as the Muffler Mama. And because she became the top salesperson for a muffler manufacturer. So
there you go.
And she was the only female and she was the top salesperson because she stood out. Right.
Oh, yeah.
And she and her husband are writing a book right now, and they've already interviewed me to be featured in the book about standing out, doing things differently. I should send her your name and you should have a conversation with her because
I'd love to.
You guys have the orange in common and you've really done quite a few things to help really make you stand out in your field. So that's really what I hope the listener takes away from this is that they really go, okay, what does make me different? What am I willing to do to stand out? Because that's the only way that you get to where people know who you are and what you do.
One of my professors in college asked me, what did I think becoming famous would look like? Right. Because I told him, I said, I want to know how to be locally famous. And he goes, well, what does that look like? And, I said at first I was like Ronald McDonald, and they're like, well, they're national, but that's a good start. And he goes, if you want to be locally famous, and what it looks like is look at the Dirt Cheap Chicken and Becky Queen of Carpet. And if you're a St. Louis person of some substance, like if you've been here for at least, I would say the last, if you're 40
years,
30, if you're 30, like maybe the 20 something year olds might not remember Becky, but if you're 30, I'm sure late 20s, Becky Queen of Carpet, because she was on TV until what, 2000, right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. Anyway, she just passed away a few months ago, by the way. Rest in peace, Becky. But he said that. So I put on my business plan to be as famous as Becky Queen of Carpet. And so to do that, I remade the Becky Queen of Carpet commercial. There's commercials out there of me dancing or flying on a carpet, with a green screen, obviously, and then dancing on that carpet. But that's it right there. And so just to set expectation, when you guys look up these videos of me dancing, I don't dance well. It's not like a beautiful thing. It's dancing with confidence.
Yes.
I'm very confident in what I do. And that's what makes it fun, because I think that's the other, if you want a secret from Bob, do what's within you. And what I mean by that is, Jenny, I love you to death, but you would not be able to pull off the dancing video because it's not your thing.
No,
you can pull off the purple hair. I would never be able to pull off orange hair. As much as I love the orange, you'll never see me run around with a head full of orange hair as Jenny runs around with a head full of purple hair. She can pull that off and I can't. So do what's inside of you. If it is not original, if it is not genuine, it will come across as being ingenuine. It will come across as being fake. And that's something that you cannot do. It has to be something inside you. So if you love Legos, or if you love, clay, or whatever it is you love, you can find a way that incorporates. If you love purple, orange, you love a certain color, incorporate that into what you do. And that is the secret sauce right there. It's got to be genuine. It's got to come from the heart. So do I dance well? Will I ever be on Dancing with the Stars? Heck no, never was going to happen. But I dance with confidence of like an 8-year-old in a Batman t-shirt.
Yes, exactly. And it's fun, right?
Absolutely.
That's what I think draws the audience in, is they see you having fun and you're just doing the thing, right? You're just doing the thing. It's great, right? So Bob, after all of this, right, going through this conversation, if the Badass Crew wants to reach out to you to talk a little bit more about whatever branding ideas, or just to thank you for this brilliant idea of help me stand out in the world of people who also sell the same thing I do, right? How would you like them to reach out to you?
The phone is the best thing. It's a great invention. Call or text me. My number is 618-781-3325.
Yes. And this is country code United States #1. So
yes.
I'm assuming you're not on WhatsApp or whatever. So international people, just find him on the internet. It's all fine. But if you're in the United States and you want to text Bob and just say thank you, you heard him on the Badass Direct Sales Mastery Show, shoot him a quick text. The number is in the show notes, so you can just click it, send him a message, or give him a call and say, hey, thanks. Or if you have a question, ask him a question, or Well, if you know someone in St. Louis who needs to buy a house or sell a house,
Who
why
knows
not
more
talk
about
to
a
Bob?
home than Bob? That's one of my taglines. Who knows more about a home than Bob?
I love it. So, Bob, thank you so much for being here and
Thank you,
sharing this
Jenny.
brilliance with my audience. I'm so grateful to you.
No, thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And Badass Crew, you know how this goes. Stay tuned because there's another badass episode on its way.
Thanks for listening to the Badass Direct Sales Mastery Podcast with your direct sales dom, Jenny Bellinger. Why are you waiting to go to badassdirectsalesmastery.com? Don't make the dom get her whip. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to share it with another rock star that you know in direct sales after you subscribe to the podcast so you won't miss any future episodes. You can also check out the show notes for links and any contact information mentioned in today's episode. We'll see you next time.